The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Welcome. It is Tuesday. We have 2 days before Halloween. I've got my Halloween garb on and, oh, can you hear that? Can you hear that? That is the holiday treadmill warming up. Can you all feel it? Can you feel the stress going up? We're going to try to squash some of that and put it into productive use and not get overwhelmed and not get behind. That's some of the stuff that we're going to be starting on in these next couple of days here on Autism Live so that we can all have a happy, joyous, restful, peaceful holiday season where we get to connect and none of us get sensory overload. How exciting would that be, right? But in any case, we are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective, including the holidays and things that we might want to consider as we warm up for these next 2 days. I always think that holidays and Halloween in particular, a very interesting time. We teach all these rules to our children, whether they're on the spectrum or not on the spectrum, about, you don't talk to strangers, you're not rude, you don't ask people to give you things that are strangers. And then one night out of the year, we all dress like crazy people, and there's all kinds of frightening people out on the streets. We walk in the streets late at night, and we walk up to strangers and ask them to give us candy. Just saying, might be a hard concept for all of our kids, but especially for our kids on the spectrum. And yet, it can be very fun if we approach it with the right mindset and if we put some tools in place. So we will talk about all that. I want to remind you from the jump here at the show that our whole purpose is to be interactive. So Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can interact with us. I'm going to remind you that you can be watching us live at www.autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a computer screen. Click on the computer screen and you can be watching the live show or the most recently taped show. Next to that screen is a white box, and you have the ability to put your cursor there no matter where you're watching in the world, no matter what time you're watching. Type away whatever you'd like, a question, a suggestion, a comment, a criticism. We'll take it all. Hit enter. It shows up here on the screen, and then we can address it in the next available live show. Sometimes we'll save a question for the right expert that comes in. And don't be afraid if it's been a while and your question didn't get hit, send it again. Because, sometimes things get lost in the shuffle, but we try to answer your questions in a timely fashion. I will tell you on the live feature, it's absolutely free, and you have complete anonymity. We have no idea who you are. We don't even know where you are. And isn't that a lovely thing? Except when you want an answer back. If there's something in particular that you need, or you need us to email you something, then you will need to include some personal information, a way for us to get in contact with you. Otherwise, we have no idea who we're talking to. And when you include personal information, we don't share it with the audience at large. I have a way of editing that out so we can preserve your anonymity. But again, it's free. There is no cost. You don't have to log in. You're not registering for a newsletter, although we do have a newsletter, and I would encourage you to be getting it because, and I would encourage you to sign up in the next 2 days, because on Friday, it'll be November 1st, the November edition will go out, and it will have some information in there about some giveaways that we have coming up. We have my office is filling up with stuff. I can't wait to give this stuff away for all the holiday season. And keep in mind, too, that we've got a couple of weeks coming up where we're going to talk about gift giving, so what to give a therapist, what to give a teacher, how to do this without a huge expense. And then the week after is the Festival of Toys. That's the week before Thanksgiving, the Festival of Toys. I'm so excited about it. So all of that and ever so much more. And but be in contact with us. Sign up for that newsletter. The way you do that is go to our Facebook page. While you're there, give us a like on your Facebook page and share it. Share it with other people and get them to like it, because you won't believe what we're going to be giving away. It's very exciting. Lots and lots of free stuff. And sign up for the newsletter. That's where I started that point. All right. I always remind you, too, at the start of the show that I am not an expert in autism. I'm an autism parent. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He started his early intervention ABA program right after his 3rd birthday, and he is now 10. And life is pretty sweet. You know, we cycle in and out of some stuff, and we're not done. I don't know that we're ever going to be done. But life is sweet. He's in completely included 5th grade, performing at grade standards and above, and I get to have wonderful conversations with him. And when I tell you that that was all in question, I know you know what I mean, right? So that's why I'm here to pay this forward. If it hadn't been for some pretty incredible people who helped me along the way, I would not have found my way. And I have to say, one of the families that helped us to really find our way, I had the opportunity to go to an event the other night, and it was so inspirational to me to see their child in a format that blew my mind. Just absolutely blew my mind. He's in junior high school now, and it was so exciting. It was so exciting, and I really was quite touched and moved to see how well their family is doing, and so grateful to them always. So I'm here to pay it forward. When I asked the mom in particular, I said, how am I ever going to pay you back? And she said, oh, no, you're going to pay it forward. Find a way to tell other people what you've learned. And now she always says, look at you. You figured that out. I don't know. We try. This is why what we try to do here. So in any case, join us. Together we can do this. No matter where you are on the spectrum or where your child is on the spectrum, let's see if we can't create some progress. Let's hold hands together and see if we can hook you up with some information and help you to do the kinds of things that you want to be doing. That's why we're here. We like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it within our lives. What does this mean to us? We'll show you a textbook definition, and like me, you'll want to light your hair on fire and run screaming into the street saying, would somebody please explain this to me? But we don't have to do that, because then we always give you the working definition. All right, today's term is task analysis. This is all going to start to make sense in a minute, but let's take a look at our actual definition of a task analysis. A task analysis is the process of breaking a complex skill or series of behaviors into smaller, teachable units. This makes a certain amount of sense, right? This isn't one of our tougher actual definitions, but let's look at our working definition. It's a list of all the individual steps a child has to take in order to complete a task or a sequence of behaviors. So if you're going to teach how to wash your hands, a lot of us we think of it as this muddled series of, or we think of it as one action, right? But when you break it down, if somebody doesn't know how to wash their hands and it seems a little overwhelming to them, and it is overwhelming to some people, then we can make it easier to teach this skill if we just break it down into a series of events that, we go to the sink and we turn on water, and maybe we do this in different ways, and depending on the sink, maybe it's just one faucet that we turn on, and then we can turn it different directions to make sure that we have temperature, right? Or maybe there's 2 faucets we want to turn on, different things, right? Then some people will test the water. Then, is it a pump soap or is it a bar of soap? And then there is the action of, washing the hands front and back. And then there's the rinsing and then the drying off. Stop and consider a child who maybe gets the turning on the water, because that's really reinforcing, right? They want to turn on the water. And the child who gets the pumping, the soap, because that's really reinforcing, that's great. And then sticks their hands underneath the sink and lets all the soap run down one hand, and they call that hand washing. And then they take and wipe their hands on their tuchus, right? I'm very familiar with this. This is how my son wants to wash hands, right? So we've got a chain of behaviors there. And if we stopped and thought about it and said, okay, some of these, he can do, so it's the teaching this, Not that hard to do. We can isolate that and we can teach it. But until we break it down into the task analysis, we may not know where the chain in this chain of behaviors is being broken. So we do a task analysis to list, and the task analysis is going to look different for different people. One of the things I love, and I always talk about the fact that I love skills, they have task analyses already there done for you, but you can customize them. So there's a task analysis for brushing your teeth. There's a task analysis for tying your shoes. There's a task analysis for changing your clothes. There's a task analysis for undoing your trousers to go to the bathroom and then pulling them back up. But you can customize them. But you don't have to start from the beginning. You can just plug something else in if, your child is having trouble with this and you got to break it down into a smaller element, or they're able to chunk it and you want fewer elements, you can edit them. Otherwise, though, you can do a task analysis on your own. One of the roommates that I had over the years was studying to be an occupational therapist, and she would take stop motion videos of us opening a refrigerator door so she could be writing a task analysis, and we'd have to do it over and over and over again. And I didn't understand at the time, she's writing a task analysis, and that's what this is for. Now I get it. But you don't have to go through that if you don't want to. They're available in skills. All right, I'm rolling my microphone. Okay, so we also always have for you a question of the day. And today's question of the day, we'll hope to take a few minutes a little bit later on in the program to check in on Facebook to see the kinds of things that you guys have written in. We want to know, what adaptive goals would you like to be working on? If you think about those adaptive goals, those are the real life skills. And they're going to be different for each child depending on age, and they're going to be different for each child depending on skill level. So if you've got a really small child, just being able to put on their socks might be the adaptive goal that you're working on. Whereas if you've got an older child, say a teenager, maybe you're working on the adaptive skill of being able to pack a backpack, right? Or being able to put together a report, and go, punch all the holes or whatever it is. Those adaptive life skills, or cook a meal might be something you're working on with a teenager, or driving. Yes, I know, puts fear into all of our hearts, doesn't it? Yes, our kids get to the point where they're going to drive. It's a very exciting thing for all of us. So we want to know from you, what adaptive goals would you like to be working on? Because maybe it's something we'll do a show on in the future. Toileting, adaptive skill, all of those things, setting a table, taking care of a pet, all adaptive skills, right? We also always have a topic of the week, and our topic this week, this is where you're going to see it all come together, learning through observation. Now, I said to Emily, probably last Thursday, I said, I can't remember, what is our topic next week? And she said, it's learning through observation. And I said, it is? Why are we doing that in Halloween week? Why did I say that? Why? And then I remembered this weekend, this is why. Because this is a great opportunity this week for our kids to be learning through observation. Sometimes when we have to hurry things up a little bit, when we're only getting one shot or two shots or three shots at something, it helps for our kids to learn through observation. So if your child is not good at trick-or-treating, we're going to practice with them trick-or-treating, but it's time to crack out some movies where kids are trick-or-treating so they can learn through observation, and go out into the, your environment and see if you can watch, beforehand. People all weekend long were having trunk or treats all over the country. A great opportunity, learning through observation. And we're also going to do a task analysis on trick-or-treating. What are the steps that your child needs to understand? And are you really going to work on all of the steps on Halloween night? You might work on all of them leading up to, but on Halloween night, you might just work on, them holding up the pumpkin and saying trick or treat, or holding up the pumpkin, or walking up to the door, or saying thank you. What part of the task analysis do you want to say, this is where we're going to make some progress this time? But we're also going to be talking about this learning through observation. It's a very good thing to do. All right, so some of the things that we have going on today, we've got some really exciting guests. Tuesday's shaping up to be this wonderful, wonderful day. We have with us today in just a few minutes, Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net is going to be with us. We have our healthy eating segment today, and then a little bit later, Matt Asner is going to be with us. He is a remarkable autism dad. He also works for Autism Speaks, but that to me is sort of secondary to the fact that he's here to give us the dad perspective. And Matt, in particular, comes from a slightly different place, that not only does he have experience as a dad and going through that, but he has a brother who's on the spectrum too. And so he's got lots of different ways to look at this that are very informative to us. We love to have his input. So all of that, much more, and your questions after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi everyone! In the cold winter months, it can be really nice to sit down and enjoy a nice, warm apple crisp. And thanks to Breads from Anna, we can make one for you gluten and yeast free. So let's go over what we're going to need. To make the filling, you're going to need 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, ½ teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, 7 cups of Granny Smith apples, and 3 tablespoons of Breads from Anna pie crust. For your topping, you're going to need 1 cup of rolled oats, a 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of Breads from Anna pie crust mix, 3/4 of a cup of butter melted, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of water. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So now let's cut some apples. We're going to peel and slice 6 apples. So as you're cutting your apples, make sure you add your lemon juice to make sure that they don't brown and oxidize. So once all my apples are cut and sliced, I'm going to go ahead and add the nutmeg, cinnamon, and the pie crust mix. We're just going to stir these together. So we've got a 13 by 9, and we're just going to spray this with a little bit of grapeseed oil. And then we're going to pour our apples into the dish. And to make our topping, we're just going to combine the rest of the ingredients in a small bowl. All right, that looks pretty good. We're just going to pour this evenly over the top of the apples, and we should be good to go. All right, this is ready to bake, 30 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. It's been 30 minutes, so our crisp should be all done. All right, it's pretty hot, so you would probably want to let it sit for a little while, but we're gonna go ahead and serve up a slice here. To learn how you can win free mix from Breads from Anna, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/autism-live. See you soon.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are so thrilled this morning. We're joined by our very special guest, Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you for having me again.
So thrilled to have you here. And you're going to be talking a little bit about autism in the news.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, take it away, Alex.
Well, first of all, I am going to mention a story that I saw on Deadline Hollywood about Eliza Dushku and Louise Krause are going to be in an indie drama called Jane Wants a Boyfriend. And Jane, who's played by Louisa Krause, is, I think that's how you say it. Is it Kreus? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't know her. But it's inspired by true events, and it explores the week in the life of a young woman with Asperger's who enlists her older sister, the older sister is played by Dushku, and the younger sister is played by Louise. And they want to help. She's going to help her find a boyfriend, so that's the story, and it's going to be.
I love that.
Yeah.
And do we have any idea when it comes out? That's a great storyline.
Well, they just got cast,
okay.
So I don't think there's any sort of timeline.
It's going to be a ways, but
it'll be a while.
What a great hook! I mean, that I'm already wanting to see that. Really remarkable. And you had some more that you wanted to talk to us about this and other news.
Well, also there's a article in Forbes called "Creating Great Employees Who Happen to Be Autistic," and if you go to Forbes, you can read the article. I won't go through it, but it brings me to my topic, which is jobs and autism. And for people who are on the autism spectrum who want to find jobs, often you are very skilled, and we are very good at doing specific things and can focus on a topic of interest to the extent that it allows us to become much better at it than most other people that we know. And because of this, we're very good employees. However, getting a job is the difficult part.
Yeah.
You have to go through a job interview, and for someone who's socially shy or inept or not very good at social skills, the job interview portion might be very, very daunting. You might be intimidated by that. So my advice is that you need to just focus on learning how to impress people, learning how to have charisma. It's a very good skill to have, because when the employers interview you, they already know what you look like on paper. So they're comparing you to other people, and you might be up against people who aren't as skilled as you, or who might not be as good at the specific interest that you have and that they're hiring for. However, often the employers will look at your social skills and see how you'll mesh into the office, and that's really what they focus on mainly. So my belief, and I think this is pretty much accurate, is that you really need to focus mainly on being someone that they enjoy talking to, someone that they really like to sort of bring onto their team.
Absolutely. You're somebody who has a great deal of charisma. So I'm already envisioning charisma class with Alex Plank. What can you think of, like one or two things that you've learned along the way that you think of as having charisma?
Well, one of the most important things is to find a commonality with the employer. So the interviewer rather. So when you go in there, sort of strike up a conversation. How's it going? And if there's something that you both share, then you can say, oh, I'm also from Virginia, or oh, I'm also from this place. And that creates this shared bond, and it makes the person who you're talking to like you more.
Yeah.
It's scientifically proven that when you have something in common, someone likes you more. Even if the thing that you have in common is completely inane and really doesn't matter.
And unrelated to work.
Of course, unrelated to the job. So what really needs to happen is that you want to impress this interviewer, and don't be nervous, because you know what, it's all practice.
Yeah.
If you don't get the job, you're definitely not going to get the job if you're nervous anyway, so you're not going to get the job either way. So if you try your best, just look at it that way and don't get too intimidated by it, because there's plenty of job interviews that you can go out for. And yes, I know it's hard to get a job and it's hard to get interviews, but another thing that is very important is if you're in college, go to the career fair and talk to the person at that booth for as long as you can, and be very friendly and impress them. Because when you go into the interview, if they want you to get a job from the college internship fair, they're going to be like, you have to hire this guy, I love him, to the person who's doing the interview, even if it's someone different. That happened to me once.
Really? All great advice, Alex. Absolutely love that. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have Alex talk a little bit more about charisma, and then I want to know how the Blue Jean Ball went last week. All right. So stick with us. More after these messages.
Hello, fellow activists. Today we're going to talk about the 10 steps to empowerment. Step number 1, accept and embrace this challenge. By telling you to accept and embrace the challenge, I don't mean you have to love autism. Let's get this straight. I love my child with autism, but I hate that autism stole a big part of his childhood. When I look back at my journey, I realize that I knew in my gut that my son was regressing at the age of 2. I had a hard time with acceptance. It didn't come easy for me. My denial may have stemmed from the fact that I didn't want to go through what my own mother had, raising a child with Down syndrome with no support. I even equated my mother's alcoholism with her being stuck at home with a disabled child. I didn't want that life for myself. I couldn't believe that having lived through the experience of having a brother with special needs, I was now faced with having to raise my own child with special needs as well. But being in denial did not make the truth go away. It's when we can accept the truth that it can set us free. Until next time, stay strong and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest here in the studio with us is Alex Plank from wrongplanet.com. So, excuse me, wrongplanet.net.
Yeah, don't say the wrong web address. It's wrongplanet.net.
Wrongplanet.net. Very, very important.
Surprising how many people get confused by that, which is...
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I would say that the first couple of times you told me that, I am so programmed to go to .com, and obviously there's so many other dots. I know.
You don't even mention
.net.
it because you...
.net. .net.
Wrongplanet.net.
Yes. You can smack me later, right upside the head. Okay, so we were talking about charisma and about shopping for jobs, and I said, Alex, during the break, I said, Alex, I want you to talk a little bit about how you learned your social skills, because you have just really beautiful, meticulous social skills. And in the past, when I've asked you, you said, you know, well, I found out what I needed to know and then I learned it. But how did you find out? Was it just that you were curious, or did your parents say? I
was incredibly curious to learn social skills. Not really curious is the wrong word.
Okay.
The correct word would be I was desperate to make friends, and so I realized that I needed to learn social skills. So what I did is I would observe other individuals who are socially adept and
you know,
watch
our topic
them.
this week is learning through observation.
Well, that's
there
the
we go.
thing.
Yeah.
It's really important to watch people who are good at it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important that your child is in a school where there are kids that aren't on the autism spectrum as well, because they're going to be going into a world where they're with everyone, you know,
Right.
autism or not. So if you try to sort of shelter them away from that, they lose that learning in the earlier stages.
Now, here's the tough question, because you said I was desperate to make friends. How did you realize that what was holding you back from making friends was this social component? Like, did somebody say it to you?
Well, I
or
mean,
did you just
I've looked
glean
at the deficiencies that you have when you have Asperger's. Is one of the things that you lack is social skills.
Right.
So I would assume, and plus that's the way you make friends, by using social skills.
Yeah,
you don't make friends by...
Yeah, I see in my son that he doesn't connect. He says, I want to make friends, and I'm trying to make friends, and it doesn't always work. And then I want to take him and work on these social skills, and he doesn't really want to work on them. And I keep saying, but this is how you make friends. He hasn't put those two things together yet. He's 10. Right? So, you know, it may be something that just I haven't found the right key to the lock, but it just made sense to you.
Maybe he understands that, but it's just so hard for him that he's sort of not having an easy time doing it, so he's sort of...
Getting frustrated.
Of course. I mean, it takes a long time. I'm still learning. And I'm 27 years old.
Well,
so,
I'm 51 and I'm still learning. So there we, you know, I mean, socially there are things that I want to be better at. So I don't know that any of us ever stops.
Well, everyone continues to learn, of course, but I think that for people who are naturally who are neurotypical, I think people who naturally have social skills, they are actually innately able to pick up on certain cues that people with autism have to actually logically think about. They actually have to process it in an intellectual way, not from their gut.
Right. I actually was having a conversation with somebody last night, and I said, you know what I think is wrong with the world is that we're spending so much time teaching perspective-taking skills to individuals on the spectrum, and we're not taking enough time to teach perspective-taking skills to all the neurotypical people, because in my world now, the people that are on the spectrum are so much better at doing, perspective-taking skills. Maybe they have different deficits socially, but I wish that the neurotypical world would get better at perspective-taking instead of constantly being so interested in teaching it to the autism community.
Well, that is true. However, we live in this world, and for kids who are about to graduate from high school or about to graduate from college and are about to go out into the job world, saying that doesn't really help them in
I agree.
a practical way. I mean, you can wish as much as you want. You can wish that there's no poverty. You can wish for a lot of things. And I agree, though, that it is something that we need to work on. However, as far as I can see, for me, the only way to really learn these social skills is to not only teach awareness. Like, you are right on the fact that, yes, it would be better if people understood the perspective of autism, which is what I try to do when I work with shows like The Bridge.
Yeah.
And I work with Diane Kruger and coach her to help her sort of show people through her acting and through this storyline that isn't really even about autism, but subconsciously you start to like this character, and then maybe you might meet someone out in public that you would have otherwise rejected, but because you sympathized with this character on TV, you might be willing to give this person more of a benefit of a doubt.
Expands your mind a little bit.
Because when you watch TV, if a character annoys you, you still continue to watch it, you know, because it's entertaining, the show.
Sure.
But if the character grows on you after that initial annoyance, then you start to actually like that character. And that happened with the character on The Bridge.
Yeah. It's an amazing show, and for those of you who are just joining us or haven't watched the show before, Alex, who is an amazing filmmaker on his own right, and who created the website wrongplanet.net, Alex is, admitted, very open about the fact that he is on the autism spectrum, and he is the consultant for The Bridge on topics having to do with Asperger's, autism, and specifically with that Diane Kruger's character.
Yeah, and also one thing that if you go to my Facebook, I posted a link to an interview I did on The Business on KCRW, which is syndicated to NPR stations around the world.
Wonderful. And any particular topic that you're talking about there?
Well, I talk about not only the show and working on that, but just autism in general and characters on TV and actually learning social skills. And I mentioned about Shameful, the movie about autism in France that we're in post-production for.
Which I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
There's an interview that you've done on this show about Shameful, which people can go and watch on our YouTube channel. But I want to get back to talking about charisma a little bit, but I want to take a break first. So stick with us. We're going to come back more with Alex Plank and ask him to tell us the process that he went through to get these fabulous social skills. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. For this month, I figured we're going to do a super special portrait that is in the theme of October, which means spooky eyes that follow you as you walk around. In this activity, you and your child are going to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are a camera, a ping pong ball, X-Acto blade, tape, and a marker. And if your kids are up to it, props and costumes. Now let's take some photos. It's a great time to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. Let's get our props.
See all the colors in the sky tonight. It's time to let the sunshine hide.
Once you've finished your photo shoot with your child, select one of the photos and print it out on a large piece of paper. Now that you've selected your photo, you're going to take an X-Acto blade and just cut out the eyes from it. This part of the activity is definitely only for the adults. Now that you've finished cutting out the eyes, what we're going to do next is take a ping pong ball and cut it in half. You'll see why in just a moment. So with the ping pong balls, we're going to create the illusion of the following eyes. So what you're going to do is take a marker and you're going to make a dot in the very, very center. You're going to want to make it like the same size of what the iris was in the photo. Now that the ping pong balls are done, I'm just going to tape them to the back of the photograph. So does it look like she's following you? Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity for Smarty. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest in the studio with us is Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net. Alex is also a consultant, the consultant having to do with autism on the TV show, the hit TV show, The Bridge. And Alex got to appear on the show on the last episode. Wonderful part that you had on the show. It was thrilling to watch you there. I was just saying to Alex that one of my son's teacher was saying recently, and she didn't know that I knew Alex, or she didn't even know that Alex had anything to do with the show. She's just a TV viewer. And she said to me, she just brought it up and said, oh my goodness, are you watching The Bridge? It's the best show on television. Rave reviews. And of course, you guys are getting that from a lot of people. You've been picked up for a second season. Mm-hmm. Very, very exciting. And in a few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about you and Diane Kruger were at the Blue Jean Ball.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But I want to finish talking about charisma, because you have a great deal of charisma.
Right.
And we were talking a little bit about how did you come by that you decided that you wanted to have friends, and so you were going to learn more about social skills. You learned through watching. Did you watch television or movies or real kids?
Well, watching television is not always the best model for behavior, but yes, I did watch TV and sort of watch characters. Comedy is the worst to watch because some of the characters act inappropriately. Right. I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's like if you're trying to learn what you're supposed to do. Right. But as I said, it took a long time because I did it throughout college and even now. Yeah. So
but was there anybody in particular, or a couple of people in particular, who you looked at and said, okay, this person is very good at this, and so I'm going to watch what they do? No. Yes, there were role models. Yes, I would pick out people who were specifically good. I mean, there's no one no specific person that you want to name.
But, I mean, it would just not really be useful because it's some random person. People that.
But what about what they were doing did you look at and go, okay, that looks like it works?
Everything that they did that worked. I mean, you can watch a situation and see what happens in the result, and see if people like them. You can pick up on that if you learn to look at the. It's easier to see it when you're not trying to do it yourself, too.
Right, absolutely. Charisma seems like such a slippery thing, though. You know, you look at people and you go, so they have a whole show called The X Factor for people who have that something, that je ne sais quoi, that extra thing that will make them popular. And a lot of people think, okay, I just don't know how to do that. But you're very popular. And I've seen you at events. You're a bit of a rock star. You know, you walk through and people want to talk to you. People want to get to know you.
Well, that brings me to the Blue Jean Ball.
Yeah?
It was hard because everyone was talking to me. And
was it overwhelming?
It was fun.
Yeah. But I saw that at Denim and Diamonds. You were with the rest of the press behind the red velvet line, but people were wanting to talk to you. There was a bit of a thing about, you know, he should be on the other side of this.
Yeah, I made a mistake. Sometimes I get mixed up with left and right, so when I was walking, I walked to the right instead of the left. So I happened to have my camera, so I just started taking pictures.
But you are comfortable on either side of that rope. But interestingly enough, there were some press people who were wanting to interview you. Yeah. Because you're a story in and of yourself. But I don't think it's just that, Alex. I think it's that you do have this charisma, this way about you that people want to talk to you.
Yeah. But I feel like it's something that I've developed over time. I don't think I've always been charismatic.
So you don't think as a 14-year-old you were charismatic?
Well, maybe I was in an awkward way, but...
At some point, I got to interview your parents. At some point, if they come to visit you, you have to...
Well, they did come to visit me.
Well, and you did not tell me. I am just depressed about that, Alex.
Why?
Next time your parents come, I wanna have them on the show.
Okay.
If you'll float that.
I think the show was on hiatus when they came anyway. So
might have been during a holiday or something like that.
Yeah. But I think that in reality, the parents are also very important to instill confidence and make sure that the child has success. Yeah. I mean, if I didn't have supportive parents, I don't know where I would be now. Yeah. And I mean, that's easy to say, but...
and you have siblings?
I do.
And are they supportive?
Yeah, my sister also, cool news, my sister called me up, she's like, I called you first because you're my oldest brother to tell you this.
Is it something you can say on the air, or is it a secret?
Well, she put it on Facebook, so I
Okay.
assume it's a
All right.
public. She got engaged.
Oh, wow. Very exciting. So a wedding about to happen.
Yeah, and I told her on the phone, as long as the wedding's not in Ohio where she lives, I'll come visit it. I'll come to it. And then she's like, "Well, it is in Ohio, but
You have a no-fly zone?
you're my brother, so you have to come." And I was like,
That's
"Oh,
pretty much a
okay."
rule. That's pretty much a rule. So why wouldn't you want to go to Ohio to go to a wedding?
I was just telling her she should have it here.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, destination wedding, a Los Angeles destination wedding could be good. I have a feeling you're going to end up getting on a plane and going to Ohio.
I will.
Brides have the right to say.
Oh no, I was joking. Of course, I will go to Ohio.
Of course, I know that. But
Yeah.
well, tell her congratulations. That's wonderful. When do you know what time of year?
She said summer.
Okay, very cool.
So, Marissa Plank, so you guys can go to Facebook and friend her and
There
wish
you
her
go.
congratulations.
I'm sure she'll love that. Wonderful. All right, we are going to take a short break, and then we're going to talk about Blue Jean Ball and all the different things aside from being a rose and if time was had by all. So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. In the studio with us right now is Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net. And last Thursday night, Alex was at an event for Autism Speaks here in Los Angeles, the Blue Jean Ball.
Yes.
Which is more of a concert than a ball. I was picturing dancing, but it's more of a concert. I heard that it was phenomenal. You were there. You were presenting one of the pillars.
Right.
Which pillar did you have?
Awareness.
Awareness, a great one for you to have. And who was your co-presenter?
Diane Kruger.
From the wonderful
Bridge.
show The Bridge, somebody you're very familiar with.
Yeah, we got up on stage and
And did you think,
joked around a little bit.
Yes, had a good
And
time.
yeah, well, and then we enjoyed the rest of the show. Dave Grohl performed, and it was amazing. And James Durbin,
Yes, from American Idol.
He has autism. I
Yeah.
met him,
And Tourette's.
Yeah.
It's a dual diagnosis. Yeah.
right, and that's a common comorbid condition. And the
Yeah.
other thing about it is that I got to hang out in the green room backstage with all the artists. And got some pictures with them and posted them on Facebook and Instagram, and it was really cool. And I think that and then Charlie Sheen was supposed to show up,
Okay.
and but he didn't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and but he did send a letter, which Chuck Saffler, the president at FX, who's on the board of Autism Speaks, who was the honoree of the night, read this letter, and he read the letter, and Charlie Sheen donated $100,000.
Wow. That's stand up. If you can't be there,
I mean, if you can't be there,
$100,000 check
is
smooths
like,
that over.
not only does it smooth it over, I mean, if you want to smooth it over, I feel like a much less amount of
That's
money
true.
would do the trick. So he was very generous, I think.
That's a pretty stand-up thing to do. Very, very cool. So, a wonderful event, and the whole thing was to raise funds for the pillars. There's 4 pillars, there's 5 pillars. There's 4 pillars,
There's
right?
4 pillars.
4 pillars. This was.
Well, Matt Asner said that they might be adding a fifth pillar, which would be me.
I was lobbying for that last week. When you said pillars, I was think of the pillars of society, not concepts. Right. And so I was saying that you were a pillar, and so I think they should add a fifth pillar, and you should be it.
Well, I would be perfectly happy with that. So, I mean, if you want to set up for a nomination type thing,
I'll start the petition.
Do something.
I'll get right on that. And so, what was your favorite part of the night?
That's hard to say. I enjoyed all of it. I mean, I was supposed to walk the red carpet. Well, it's a blue carpet, but I forgot to. I was going to, but people kept coming up and talking to me, and I kept getting distracted now. And I was really disappointed at the end that I forgot to do that, and I was disappointed at myself because it was really my fault. I mean, were gonna have me walking.
I think it's got to be a hard thing when you're a big rock star in demand, and certainly people I'm sure were wanting to talk to you. Was it just other celebrities who wanted to talk to you, or was it parents, run-of-the-mill friends?
It was a mixture of people, everyone.
Yeah.
Friends. We had a table for the bridge, and the showrunner Elwood was there, and Carolyn Bernstein, who's another executive producer on the show, and Matthew Lillard came, who's cool.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who he is from Scream and SLC Punk, and he played Shaggy in Scooby-Doo.
He's amazing.
He was there.
He's absolutely amazing. Do you know, when I watched the first episode of The Bridge and I was watching him in it, and I was like, why do I know this guy? Why is he so familiar to me? What does he... And then all of a sudden I was like, he's Shaggy. But to see him in that other setting is quite... Because he's a very good actor. Very good actor. Well, we thank you so much for all that you're doing for the autism community. We want to encourage people to go to wrongplanet.net. Tell us a little bit about what they'll find when they go to Wrong Planet.
Well, we have articles on the front page, but the main draw, I think, is the forums, where you can post messages, and there's 80,000, 90,000 people posting forum messages.
We've had a couple of people in the past who've watched the show, teenagers in particular, Alex, who have written to me and said, I'm having a rough time. This really stinks. And one person in particular who said, I'm furious at autism, and I don't know where I fit in, and I don't know how to belong. And I certainly have said to them, go to Wrong Planet and see. And for any parents who are out there, it's a safe place for parents to go, and for anybody who's on the spectrum. But in particular, I would think remarkable for a teenager to see all the people who are there, that they're not alone, and all the really successful people that you have that contribute and write in on the forum and say it does get better. Don't you think?
Yes. I think that, and it's not just teenagers. There are adults on there who are 60, 70 years old that post. I mean, there's younger kids as well.
Yeah, but I think for teenagers to see that, to see the 60-year-olds and to see the 45-year-old,
yes, exactly,
and to see the 30-year-old who is married and successful and has the house and the 2 cars and is on the spectrum and has a great career, that are at the creative apex of their career, to see that and to see that that's possible is pretty exciting.
Well, I agree. I think it's very exciting for teens, and I started when I was a teen because I didn't know anyone else who was like me. And it was hard.
And in this life, we were talking earlier about how to have charisma is to find something in common with people. I think for us to be at peace ourselves is to find like-minded or like-ability people to see that it's okay.
Yeah.
That it's totally okay. And you've provided a great space in which to do that. So we encourage people to go to wrongplanet.net.
And we're doing a redesign too.
Are you?
Yeah, we're in the process of that. We have wireframes and everything, and we are going to have a new updated site with a lot more features that people should be excited about, because it's going to be pretty cool.
This is Alex multitasking. I'm dying to know what it is
I'm looking at the
wrongplanet.net.
Well, I'm looking at the wireframes as I say this. So for the new design, to see if there's anything I should say, but I don't know.
There you go. Well, wrongplanet.net. Go there, check all of it out, but also check out the forums. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We will plan on seeing you back next week.
All right.
On Tuesday. Tuesday is Alex Day. And we're going to take a short little break. We're going to come back for a healthy eating tip. But in the next hour, we're going to have Matt Asner, Autism Dad, also works for Autism Speaks. So stick with us. Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, before you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun actually for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salsa, whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it. And you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy, has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party, but it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven-fried, no-salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked, which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour that you want. This just smells awesome. And we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350 degree oven. See, easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're gonna put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else. And I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're gonna stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's gonna do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. Those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you wanna do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're gonna frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue, and then we're gonna just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you want to do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just going to place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just going to pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun. Welcome back to Autism Live. We have started featuring a story every day in the news from the Autism Daily Newscast. Very interesting post that they've got on their website right now. You can go to autismdailynewscast.com. New research claims use of paracetamol correlates with autism and ADHD diagnosis rise. Okay, revolutionary new research published in the Journal of Evolutionary Medicine claims to have found a correlation in the rise of autism and ADHD and asthma diagnosis with the use of acetaminophen, the main component of painkiller paracetamol in genetically or metabolically susceptible children, and the use of acetaminophen by pregnant women. The in-depth research conducted by Dr. William Shaw, PhD, looks at the buildup of toxicity of acetaminophen, more commonly known as paracetamol in Europe, and its effect on development of a specific enzyme which is deficient in autistic people and is responsible for catalyzing desulfation pathways in the brain. Low levels of this catalyst lead to overproduction of the toxic byproduct of the pathway, namely the chemical N-acetyl-P-benzoquinine-amine, NAPQI. A small amount of this chemical is usually broken down by the liver, but large amounts, as in paracetamol overdose, cause permanent liver damage. The study shows that an increase in NAPQI also leaves an individual vulnerable to attack from the environment. So Dr. Shaw asks the question, could common advice as giving a child paracetamol before vaccination leave them susceptible to damage in the form of autism, asthma, and ADHD? The study compares the USA and Cuba. In Cuba, children have 99.7% vaccination rate, but are rarely given paracetamol. Autism prevalence in Cuba is 298 times lower than it is in the United States. Dr. Shaw went on to say, in the United States, some physicians have started to advise parents to begin to take acetaminophen prophylactically daily, 5 days prior to childhood vaccines. Some children on such prophylactic treatment had an autistic regression that began prior to the vaccination. In Cuba, acetaminophen is not approved as an over-the-counter product. However, it has been available as an over-the-counter product since 1959 in the United States. Furthermore, in Cuba, prophylactic use of antipyretic drugs is not the standard medical treatment for vaccine-related fever. If a high fever continues after vaccination in Cuba more than 2 days, the parents are advised to visit the physician's office where the drug metamizole is commonly prescribed. Prescription of acetaminophen is only in rare cases in Cuba. Metamizole is used in many countries throughout the world but is banned in the United States and some other countries because of a rare association with a specific disorder. Paracetamol overtook aspirin as the painkiller of choice in the USA after a link was discovered between aspirin and Reye's disease in the 1980s. And on the website, if you go to Autism Daily Newscast.com, you will see that there is a chart that shows when acetaminophen became the painkiller of choice and the rise in autism. It's very interesting, and there's much more in the article. I encourage you to go to autismdailynewscast.com to get the full story and other breaking news in the autism community. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Actually, we're going to go to the A word. That's where we're going, right, Emily, to the A word? Yes, thank you. This is the ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2, and you can see the amazing amount of progress that he has had because he had early intervention that came, quality early intervention that came at the right time. So take a look. This is the A word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Exciting.
I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
The silly bodies consist of him like running up, bumping up against people, objects, when he's tensing. So we implement the rule that he has a certain number of happy faces he has at the very beginning. He loses them every time he engages in that behavior. His motivation is to at least have one at the end of the session, and then he gets to have his preferred activity or treat that he only gets if he's able to maintain at least one happy face. This is a response cost, so he can't earn them back. He only loses them. So why is Suzanne laughing at you?
Because he said
Because
something.
I said something funny.
Because I said
Ah,
something
Jeff Riley.
funny.
Okay, that's one.
Because I said something funny. Because I said something funny.
There you go, but why did I take a happy face away? Because you were, look at me, because you were tensing, okay? So no tensing.
I
calm
gotta
body.
get my smelly back. My knee thing.
We don't get it back. You can have a nice calm body and then you won't lose anymore. You're doing so good so far though, Jack. Look, you have 4 left. Today we're gonna go into the library, okay? And there's some rules that we have to follow in the library. So you have to stay with Dad or Miss Suzanne or Miss Jessica in the library, okay?
Or Mr. Crowley.
Or Miss. And what kind of voice do you have to use in the library? Do you use a loud voice or a
And Jason.
Good job. You whisper, okay? And there's books there, there's computers and toys in there, okay? Hey, look at me. If you want to touch or look at anything, you have to tell Dad, okay? If you do a good job and you have a nice calm body, do good listening, and you have at least one happy face, what do you get?
Your iPod.
That's right.
That is at home.
It's in my pocket. I have it right here. Okay? So go with Dad, hold his hand. Inside voice, okay?
These are
What do you want to get a book about?
about towers.
About what?
Towers.
Towers?
Fairy tales? Castles?
Okay.
Let's have this book.
Nursery rhymes? We're gonna go find this book, okay?
Let's go.
Come on.
Nursery rhymes that is in the castle.
See how they have letters? We're looking for the letter A.
Let's go find A.
Go find the letter A. Let's go find it.
Yeah, that's the number 4. We're looking for the number 5.
We found the letter A.
And this is the.
Want to get that one?
Do you want to read
get
that?
that one and bring it up. Let's go upstairs, please.
You're doing good asking, buddy.
Welcome back. I love this series, and I want to encourage all of you to go and watch other episodes on their very own YouTube channel, because this is the record that I certainly have been excited to see happen, that I know that it's just a matter of time before people start saying, oh, he didn't have autism in the beginning. And I encourage you to go back and look at some of the early tapes and notice what he as a child was interested in and where his speech was, and how when his parents talked to him, you know, there was no turning of the head to see his parents. I know that people, no matter what, are going to poo-poo, but I know that those of you who watch and have children who are on the spectrum, you know what those moments are like. And some of you, unfortunately, know what those moments are like 3 years later when they haven't been treated. And the difference between that and seeing this little boy walking hand in hand with his dad and having conversations and talking to the waitress and asking about, you know, the food that he's eating. And this is a little boy who had huge issues. You showed him a banana and he'd burst into tears. It truly is amazing what can happen with our kids when they have access to the right therapies and quality therapy. I recently have been in several conversations with people, and I know we're in a whole whirl of things happening with our government and with insurance, and somebody was not happy about their current state of insurance, and somebody else was unhappy about the direction that their insurance was going to go, and of course the conversation worked around to well, you know, if people can't afford these things, then maybe they don't need them. And I took exception to it, and there are so many other things we could talk about besides autism and the treatments that people can't afford. And believe me that I know you are, we're all aware of the fact that our insurance coverage and health coverage for so many things needs to be different, right? But amongst those things, autism. And I hope that someday we can get to the point where people can see this is what happens with a child who doesn't get the benefit of these things, and how it is a child lost in a lot of cases. And the potential is lost, and that is something that our entire society needs to rise up and say no. There was this movement of no child left behind, and I want to know where does autism fit in? For all the people who were saying no child left behind, where are our kids on the autism spectrum in that? And I will tell you that if they have insurance coverage that will pay for them to get these therapies, they will be right there in step and becoming the productive people that we all know that they're capable of being, and perhaps leading this world in technology and things that make sense, that better our lives. I always remember talking to Temple Grandin, and actually it wasn't in a conversation that I had with her, it was in a conversation that she had with somebody else. She was talking about the tsunami that covered the Japanese nuclear power plant. And she said, and it was with Suzanne Ushinsky that she was talking to, and she said, if a person with autism had designed that plant, that would never have happened, because we would have been able to see it from a 360-degree perspective. We would have thought, this is close to the water, what will happen? We could have visualized it. And a person, she said, I can tell you right now, the person who designed that was not on the autism spectrum. And somebody who was on the autism spectrum would have prevented that, and I believe that's true. So our kids deserve this help and support. Check out the A Word, share it with people, show people this is the difference that can be made with a child when they have access to the right things, and let's all fight for all of our kids to get access. It's not fair. The playing field is not fair, and it needs to be. We'll continue to work on it. Stick with us. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back after these messages.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. 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 Let's get wild.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to another What's Left in Cooking Friendly for Kids with Allergies. And what we're going to make today is a pizza crust. We got lots of emails, and I really appreciate all the feedback. A lot of folks have been asking about what pizza crust is yeast-free, no eggs, and no gluten and all the other fun stuff. So we're going to take that challenge head on. And if anyone who likes New York type style thin crust pizza, oh, that's what we're going for today. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of almond flour. Now for folks who have allergies with nuts, there's a great bread pizza crust mix from Anna's that I really like. It's another great alternative for people who are avoiding a lot of carbs and sugars. So I like this one as well. So Jamie's going to get the flaxseed meal going, and now let's talk about the starches. What's really important about this recipe to get that crisp New York style pizza crust is arrowroot. I love arrowroot starch. It has a lot to offer for binding and pulling this recipe together. And I also have my coconut oil. I'm a big fan of coconut oil. You've heard me talk about that many times. Next, we're going to add in our spices. I like a little spices. If you've got a kid that doesn't like spices, it's okay, but I've gone really light in the oregano and basil. So we're going to go ahead and add that in with the baking soda. And for folks who like a little sweetness, I do like maple syrup a lot. But you can just add just a wee bit for flavor. I use typically maybe 1/2 teaspoon. So what's great about what Jamie's helping me with now, it's great for kids that have digestive issues. It gives a great deal of fiber and also allows a binding, like what you would look for in a gluten flour. This is a great gluten-free option. And this is a modified recipe from the website Real Sustenance. I love those guys. They do a great job, but I always like to tweak things, but appreciate them. Shout out. So we're ready to roll out our pizza crust. I'm so excited, Jamie. This tastes really good. We're gonna get the pizza crust going and the pizza toppings ready as well. So all I'm doing with the pizza crust is laying down some of my great parchment, unbleached parchment paper. And scare your husband with the rolling pin. That's always good times. So we're just gonna real simply roll this thing out. You really want it to be as thin as possible. And it's really all a matter of preference as to how thin you want it to be. This is not a really good thick crust, so that looks good. So I'm just gonna go and outline my pizza crust so it's gonna look a little prettier when I take it out of the oven. So don't be afraid of the rolling pin. Your husband can be afraid of the rolling pin, but you don't need to be afraid. This is why you gotta love parchment paper. And here we go. We're going to pre-cook this at 350 for about 22 minutes. Look at this pizza crust. It's not totally cooked yet, so that's okay because we're going to add our toppings to this. Most of us have a can of organic tomato sauce in our pantry. So all I'm doing is adding in just a smidge, okay, a quarter teaspoon of oregano. A smidge doesn't work in measurement. A quarter teaspoon of basil. And a wee bit of salt. Okay, a quarter teaspoon of salt. And for kids who are really sensitive to tomatoes, this is great because you can make it as fine as you want it to be. That's great. That smells good. So if you want to cheat, you can use this puree. I like to take the roasted tomatoes, which is great, and push this around on my pizza crust. I know I use my fingers.
That's the only way to make pizza.
Exactly.
It's made with love. Kids love helping to make pizza too because they feel really involved in it. And they get to put however much they want of things. So
yeah.
Good family affair.
And we love the Daya cheese. It goes on pretty much almost everything in my house. I'm going to go ahead and add the Daya cheese here. Too much cheese makes it a little soggy, so you may want to cook it a little longer and have it get a little bubblier. We're also using some organic sausage. This is the sweet Italian sausage, and the more the better. And then we're going to add our sliced back olives. I love olives, but again, if you've got a kid that likes pepperoni, there's a great nitrate-free pepperoni from Boar's Hill. There's our pizza ready to go in the oven. I'm ready. Let's do this. Our pizza's in the oven at 400 degrees. You can go anywhere from about 25 to 30 minutes, but again, you really want it bubbly and cooked. If you put it at a higher temperature, the fake cheese doesn't like that and it can scald. Your kid's gonna love you for such a great pizza. We'll see you next time on What's Left. If you have any questions, please email us at autismlive@gmail.com, or you can hit facebook.com/autismlive, or go to the Taco website at Tacanow, TACANOW. There's thousands of recipes waiting for you to enjoy. We'll see you next time at Autism Live. What's Left?
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back, and you just saw some wonderful, great cooking with Lisa Ackerman from Taka. But I wanted to take a couple of seconds here because it's Tuesday and it's our healthy eating time of week to talk about Halloween and the holidays coming up and strategies for ourselves and for our kids to stay as healthy as possible. We've talked about this before a little bit about make a decision today. We're 2 days away from Halloween. Make a decision about right now before everybody's sugared up, hopefully not too sugared up already. And yes, it is like being liquored up. Let's be honest about it. For us and for those little bodies that we put all the sugar into, it has much the same effect. So make a decision now while people are rational about what is an appropriate serving for your family. That's going to be different things. For some of you, you're going to say no artificial colors, but this much sugar. Some of you are going to say, None of it. We're not doing any of it. But make the decision now and then have the plan for how you're going to carry that out. One of the things that I want to encourage all of us to do is stop for a minute and think to ourselves, okay, what does my child love to eat that's healthy? What's the healthiest? Maybe, you know, it's not as healthy as what somebody else has going on, but no judgments, right? It's a holiday week. What's the healthiest thing that your child loves to eat that you know 100% you can get them to eat and get them reasonably close to being full? We're not stuffing them, overstuffing them, but if you know that your child loves chicken nuggets and they love French fries, then let's do the chicken nuggets as healthy as possible, the French fries as healthy as possible, put as few artificial ingredients. We've got recipes for you for breading the nuggets yourself, or there are places that make it that are, you know, less chemically, right? There are ways to do chicken nuggets, and then there are ways to do chicken nuggets. But then fill your kids with that and make that be the first thing that they can have before they can have the treats. Use it as a bargaining tool to say, you know, this has to be eaten before you have the treat. If they're already at a level where they're close to being satiated, is the word that we use, right? Then they're going to have less room to crave those other things. If it's that you're doing no sugar, no artificial colors, like in my house, make sure that there are other fun things. I've talked before about my son goes trick-or-treats, gets the candy, the Lego fairy comes, takes the candy, a Lego or something else. In the last couple of years, he's had other things that he's wanted instead of a Lego. It's the trading the candy for your child doesn't have to be on the spectrum to do this. I know lots of families that do this, but it's what's their currency that's going to make the candy go away. Ship it to the troops, take it to a dentist who buys it back, take it to your office, do whatever with it, but it doesn't have to be ingested by you or your family or your kids. But make sure that there's something that they're not left feeling. When we get into a problem is when our kids feel like, oh, everybody else gets to have that and I get nothing. Find out what the currency is. What's the treat, the healthy treat that your kids love? Is it, you know, you make popsicles yourself and they're all fruit juice with no other colorings? Oh my goodness, put a little, we have a local place that makes cherry apple pomegranate juice that makes the best popsicles on the face of the planet. Find something like that. I found a great GFCF soft pretzel the other day that we're going to make on Halloween. That'll be our sort of treat because we're not doing Halloween cookies and Halloween candy. Find the treat. If your child is old enough, take them in the grocery store and say, you know, what do you want for a treat? What's going to be our big Halloween excitement, and get them involved. For the younger kids, you know, stop and think about what have you seen them eat before and what do they love. There are gummy candies and hard candies that they make that have no artificial colors, have a little bit of sugar. There are ways to do this, right? They even make things that look like M&Ms that are all naturally colored. You can find them at most health food stores. Make sure it's exciting. Make sure that it's fulfilling for the kids and that they've got full bellies otherwise, but you can do this in a really healthy way. And then we'll apply that to the holidays coming around the corner. Stock your pantry and get some fresh veggies that are crunchy in the drawers in your refrigerator so that we've got things to snack on and it isn't just the automatic sugar to mouth, right? Healthy eating. We can all do this together. We're going to take a break and we'll be back after these messages.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yeah.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and then they informed me that he had received a grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle, and without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back, and we're figuring out if Matt's joining us or if he's been held up in traffic. It's a very bad traffic day here in Los Angeles, so we hope he's okay and that he'll be along, and we'll keep you posted on that. But I wanted to take a couple of seconds to talk about your answers to the question of the day. One in particular, we asked you guys today, what adaptive goals would you like to be working on? And somebody had written in about social skills, and we'll definitely talk about that. But the one I want to talk about right now is tying the sneakers. Somebody wrote in and said tying the sneakers. This is a tough one. And I will tell you that when we were getting ready to potty train my son, everybody under the sun gave me all this advice about potty training and make sure he's ready. Don't start it before he's ready because, sometimes something happens and there's a negative attachment and you don't want to have that because, their whole life and, Freud and all these things got me all worried about potty training, and I really was nervous about taking it on and waited until we had the therapist take it on. I wish that somebody had said that to me about tying the shoes, because nobody has ever told me that about tying the shoes. I thought it was just like anything else, the tying the shoes. But for our kids, and our jargon of the day was task analysis, right? And for our kids, tying the shoes is sometimes a really huge, big pain, because if you do the task analysis on it, think about having to be able, you have to have some spatial awareness. There's a lot of cognition and executive function things that go into it about how far do I need to hold to make the loop, right? But there's this other big fine motor component to it. And if you don't have both of those things under control, you're not going to get the reinforcement of the success of I tied my shoes and how exciting that is. It can be a really frustrating thing, and unfortunately it became a huge negative in my son's horizon. So I'm going to say it to you guys, if you're working on shoe tying, think of it as you got to make it the party, and don't let anybody work on it with your child who is not willing to make it the most exciting party that there is, shoe tying. And I would really encourage you to do or get a task analysis. Again, they're available in Skills. We have a video on our YouTube page, and unfortunately I don't know what the name of it is, but you can, and it isn't titled shoe tying because it has the title of the two guests who were doing it. So they did some research. You can look for it, type in the words shoe tying, and also type in Seattle 2011 ABAI conference, right, on our page, and it'll come up. Because these two women did a bunch of research on tying shoes, and they were trying to get it so that the task analysis sheet had fewer steps. And Emily's so good. It's under Natalie and Erica. What's the title of it? Do you have it? Oh, it is titled Autism, Teaching Shoe Tying. And it's Natalie and Erica who do it. It really is an amazing video, and they've got some great suggestions about coloring the laces, so we don't have to have the executive function part of it of where do I take a hold of the shoelace and where do I bring this color to meet this color, so that's how long my loop is, right? And then I do that on the other, so I bring the red lace to the blue, the red mark on the lace to the blue mark on the lace, boom, taken care of, right? And I do that over here. These two women were able to do research on it and to get the process of tying shoes to a much shorter way of learning, so it was more effective. So if you're having trouble with shoe tying, I encourage you to check out these ladies. They do a demo of it and they show, but I thought the having the different parts of the laces, and you can do it with 2 Sharpie pens. If your child is older, I can tell you from experience with my child that, he didn't want them to be 2 different colors. So, we marked it with black. And I would do it first with tape because I judged it wrong the first time and had to throw those laces away because they were marked. So, right? But, seeing, okay, this is where reasonably it has to be held together, giving them enough space so that they can get it tied is a great way to do it. And also have them practice tying their shoes with the shoe on their lap, but have the toe pointing away from them. I started doing this with my child, and I had the toe pointing towards him, which meant that he learned it in the reverse. Ugh, I hate it when I don't think of these things. So have it on their lap so they're not having to bend over, they can see it, but have the toe pointing away from them just like it will be when it's on their feet. I know it's these things that afterwards you go, well, duh, but it didn't occur to me. What can I say? Same thing with if you're going to do, we've got a doll that we're going to be featuring in our toy festival. A certain fellow who likes to giggle, and he's orange, or is he red? He's orange. Orangey red. Is he red? Emily says he's red. You know who I'm talking about. Elmo. There's a Dress Me Elmo doll that we're going to be featuring. I'm giving our secrets away in our toy festival. And he's got a little Velcro shoe, and he's got a shoe tie as well. But again, if you're going to use that as a teaching tool, have Elmo sit on their lap so they're getting the proper view of it. Duh, right? But I didn't get it. So in any case, try that out. Let us know if you watch the video. If anybody's working on shoe tying, great video. But also, in this task analysis, when you're teaching something that's got multiple steps in it, don't try to teach all the steps at one time. One of the big game changers for us with teaching our son, and believe me, we're still working on it, It's gonna, he's gonna be 38 and we're still gonna be working on it to repair the damage that I did early on. But one of the things that got us back into the groove and made it okay to work, if you've already blown it like I did, was that I said to him, you only have to do one step of this. And so the first step was just pull on the shoes and pull up the tongue, and that's it. I'll do the rest of it. Right? And then eventually, when he had that and had the rhythm of that, then I had him just pull the laces up. So now he was pulling on the shoe, pulling up the tongue, and that's all he had to do. And he would go, that's all I have to do? Oh, yeah, okay, fine. I'm willing to do that. Right? And now he does the whole thing himself. But sometimes if it's not great, because sometimes the slack is a little bit wrong because he refuses to have the little marks on the shoelaces, because he's that old. We totally have him tie his own shoes every day. We compliment him on it, no matter if it looks like, hey, nanny. And then if it isn't tight or isn't right, we very quickly undo it, tighten it up, and we go on with the day. But he's getting that practice and getting rewarded for it. We can do this. And he is tying his own shoes, and he will go to college tying his own shoes. But try not to mess it up like I did so that you don't have to backtrack for years. I'm just saying. Just saying. All right, we're going to take a break and come back with more. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I want to start, a couple of you had written in and said, where do I go to find the webinar today? And hopefully you figured out that it's 1 p.m. Pacific time. For those of you who are just here watching Autism Live and you're thinking to yourself, what webinar? I want to let you know that today, an hour after the show is over, that's 1 p.m. Pacific time, Evelyn Gould will be doing a webinar, and the title of it is enhancing behavioral parent training with acceptance commitment therapy. And those of you, we haven't been able to have Evelyn Gould on the show for a while because she's been so busy. She's been going around the country and taking part in workshops, helping for people to learn more about this acceptance commitment therapy and how vital it can be for parents of individuals who are on the autism spectrum to reduce our stress. I know we've all talked about this endlessly. We know our stress is high, but a lot of times it gets put in the back seat because we've got so much to do with our kids, with our young adults. You know, we say, well, I'm just going to have to suck it up. And it's not the best thing for us. And by extension, it's not the best thing for our children when we do that. So Evelyn has been going around and spreading that word. She's doing the webinar today. It happens to be her birthday too. So I hope that you will join us today at 1 p.m. Evelyn Gould, and if you've been missing Evelyn Gould, then today's a great opportunity. She'll be doing that webinar, and there will be an opportunity for questions and answer period. So definitely that happens at 1 p.m. Again, it's enhancing behavioral parent training with acceptance commitment therapy. So we will look forward to that. I mentioned at the start of the show, right at the start of the show, we were talking, I said, did you hear that? Did you hear that? That would be the holiday treadmill calling. I don't know about the rest of you, but Emily had said just a little while ago, she said, oh, I'm so excited about Christmas, can't wait for Christmas. And I said, oh yeah, I just need a couple more weeks. I can't believe Halloween is only 2 days away. And I was listening to NPR on the way in this morning, as I frequently do, and they were talking about the fact that each year the holidays come a little bit earlier. And that especially in a poor economy, which, let's face it, that's where we're at, that the sales will start earlier and earlier because everybody's trying to outdo each other. That, you know, used to be when I was a child, no Christmas decorations went up in any town or in any store until the day after Thanksgiving, right? And that now there are stores that have already had their Christmas decorations up in at least one section for over a month. I know that's a little shocking to me. But I mean, like run-of-the-mill stores, like they were talking about Sears and JCPenney having already had, you know, I can see in a craft store and a specialty store where they just focus on Christmas, right? But that's a long time, end of September, to have had those decorations up. And I don't know about you, but sometimes as a parent, and as a parent who is overwhelmed with other things in my life, I start to feel that pressure of, oh my gosh, it needs to be this, it needs to be that. Where are we going to have the money to do that? How are we going to do that? It's not going to be the picture perfect, because everyone has in their head an image or something in their head of this is what the perfect holiday looks like, tastes like, smells like, feels like, takes place in. And it's okay to have that. I mean, of course we all have that, but I think it's really important when we're prioritizing to say what's the important part of the picture and what's the doable part of the picture. I read a great blog over the weekend about the financial pressure of being an autism parent, and I'm hoping we can reach out to the woman who wrote it to have her here on the show. But and one of the things she talked about is how there's never enough money when you've got a child who's on the autism spectrum or has some other special need. It doesn't matter how much you wished for, there wouldn't be enough money to make it what you hoped it would be. And that in her world, and I know I certainly have experienced this, is that sometimes the Christmas where you don't have the money but other things are there, that becomes the new picture in your head of what the true spirit of the holidays can be. I've told the story before on the show of, I think it was the second Christmas in with autism that I looked right around Thanksgiving time at the checkbook and said, okay, there is definitely not going to be enough money to have a holiday dinner, buy my child even one toy for Christmas, and be able to get the medicines that he needs to have. What am I going to do? Which one of these three things am I going to bump off the budget? And being devastated, feeling like a failure as a parent. And a good friend called me in that moment where I was having that, it's like the chicken bone caught in your throat where you're like, what am I going to do? And a good friend called me in that moment, and I said, she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm in deep, deep fear. And she said, why? And I said, it's all happening in this moment. You just happen to catch me at the wrong moment because I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know what to do. I'm sitting here and I need to order his medicine, and I'm afraid to, because if it means we can't have a Christmas dinner, or it means I can't get my child a toy, I don't know how I'm going to survive that, because it seemed like the edge of the world to me. And she said, just trust, and know that it's going to be okay, and order the medicine. If you've got the money right now, order the medicine. And my hand was shaking. I got off the phone with her, and I got out the credit card. My hand was shaking, and I picked up the phone to call to order the medicine, and the phone was ringing. You know how that happens. And it was a friend of a cousin who had been to a fundraiser that we had been at, and she said, hi, normally I give your cousin a gift and I donate to Habitat for Humanity, but it occurred to me this year that he might prefer that I donate to you. And I'd like to pay for your son's medicine this month. It still chokes me up every time I think about it, because in that moment, that woman changed the trajectory of where my head was going. And then further, the TACA people gave us a scholarship, and we were adopted by a family for the Christmas, and they bought toys for my son and gave my husband and I gifts, because my husband and I had no money to gift to each other, but they bought us gifts for each other. It was the most amazing thing. And when I think about that holiday season, I am overwhelmed with the feeling of what the holidays are, and yet it was the holiday season that we had the least amount of money. So I want to start off this holiday season by saying to you, it does not have to be about the money. Sometimes it's about saying, I need some help, even if it's to one person and they're not the person. I said it to my friend out loud and said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And the rush that the universe gave me of help and support was immediate, swift, and lovely. You may not experience that yourself, but I promise you, you will experience something. And so don't feel like it has to be about the money. I read another really great blog this morning from somebody else who said, this year, I'm encouraging everybody to not gift a gift, but give the gift of time. That we give the gift of, a play date, or that we give the gift of, spending some time with the child instead of giving more toys and more clutter. So there are lots of ways around this, and we're going to be talking on the show about great, inexpensive things to give or to do for someone else for the holiday season, so we don't have to break the bank. And we're also going to talk to you about paring it down, what's essential. Maybe this is the year that you don't give a purchased gift to everyone in your family. I know the immediate thought, if you've been doing that forever, is, that doesn't mean you don't gift anything. There are things that we're going to get creative with it around here, right? But don't close yourself off to the possibility that this holiday season, even if there's no money, could be the most beautiful holiday season that you have. And our watchword is going to be breathe, because when we start to get overwhelmed, we're going to breathe and lean into the community. If you're saying to yourself, I don't know how to do this, I have never done this before, that's when you lean into the group and ask somebody who's had a little bit more time walking this path, how did you do this? How did you get through this? We're going to be talking with Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson about that tomorrow. How has she gotten through some tough holiday seasons, from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Kwanzaa to Hanukkah to Christmas to New Year's. It's a treadmill, right? We can be on the treadmill in the ways that we want. We don't have to be on it in all the other ways. So stick with us. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more. We'll be right back after these messages.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod. We're here with Autism Live. Our topic this week is learning through observation. And we've been talking about that a little bit with Halloween. We asked you yesterday, does your child notice when they are doing something different than everyone around them? We kind of have to, you have to have a place to start, right? And this is a great place to start, because if your child is already noticing that they're doing something different, then they're already on the path to learning through observation. But if they're not noticing, you might think to yourself, well, that's all well and good, but you know. And so I want to start with some of the things that you guys said. Somebody said, my son either doesn't notice or doesn't care. And then the next person said what she said, right? Right? And a lot of our kids early on are going to be in that place, because think about it. If I have the coolest toy in the world right here and it's reinforcing to me and it's fabulous and I've got this going on, why would I look to see what you're doing? Why would I care what you're doing? Right? Haven't we all wanted to be in that space where we're so involved in what we're doing that we don't care what everybody else is doing? A lot of times our kids on the spectrum are already there. And we can, you know, embrace that part of it and go, you know, that's good, because if they don't care, then, you know, they're not going to mind a whole bunch of things. But on the other side of the coin, they don't get the beauty of being able to learn through observation. So we want to teach them to take notice of certain things, but we also want to shore them up so when they start taking notice and notice that they're doing something different, that it doesn't destroy their self-esteem. Very important components of this, that if we're going to take away this being in your own little world, we got to make sure that we shore up other things. But let's talk a little bit about how we make it reinforcing for our kids to notice what other people are doing. You've heard us talk before on the show about learning language skills, for instance, tacting. And tacting is one of those really difficult things that it's hard to define and hard to figure out how to teach to a child, because we know what labeling is, right? That somebody looks at this and says, what is this? And the child says, this is a mouse. Right? That's labeling it. This is, you know, what is this? This is a pair of glasses. Okay, we've labeled that. Great. Well, tacting is a little bit different than labeling, because tacting is noticing things that are new and novel and labeling them for the purpose of interaction. So we're going to teach a child how to label things so that they can mand for them. Manding is requesting them. But then one of the further steps along the way is teaching the child how to tact, so that you have that situation. I remember when I was pregnant saying to my husband, we came up over a hill and my stomach kind of kicked, and there was a place that had a whole bunch of balloons, and I said, oh, imagine, you know, it's just a matter of time before in the back seat somebody will say, balloons, right? That's tacting. When a child notices something and points it and says, airplane or car or truck. The first time that my son manded purely without being prompted was over the garbage truck. We were in a condo that sat up, and the garbage truck would come down the little driveway between the two buildings, and he would hear it rumbling, and he would go, twuck, twuck, and he would run to see the truck, and he would say, twuck, twuck, and point. Well, that was a huge step in his development, because when they start to notice things and label them, we're primed to begin those seeds of conversation, so that when a child points and says truck, truck, then you're right there and go, yes, it's a truck. That we reinforce it, and we say, look at the truck, it's a fabulous truck. And I would hold him and pick him up and go, there it is, and get him really excited and have me be really excited. When we start to see a child tacting, then we can build on that and have them. There's a movement from being interested in things to people, and if you want to see some really exciting examples of that, go to the A Word. Fairly early on, they have a bunch of episodes showing the change of Jack Riley being into his thing and then it changing to people. It comes with eye contact and with a bunch of other lessons, and making sure that the people are reinforcing, so that there's a reason to say truck. It'll also help to build joint attention, because when my son is saying truck and I say, yes, it's a truck, and I say it in an exciting way, he looks like, what? You saw the truck too? Now we're building joint attention and eye contact. And this is all going to help to build our children noticing when new and novel things happen, and noticing what is that person doing. Then there's a whole host of lessons that we can do with our kids, where we can start with showing pictures of things and say, as they're building language, and say, we give them the receptive language. Look, they're in the bank and they're being quiet. And then we go to the bank and we say, remember, we're in a bank, we're being quiet. Look, she's being quiet. And eventually there's a whole set of lessons and skills that are just great around Halloween time to say, what's wrong? And you show pictures or videos, and you do this in real life and say, here's the circumstance and everybody's behaving this certain way. What's the thing that doesn't fit in? What's wrong? Like there may be a video of everybody is there and they're all wearing red, but there's one person who's wearing black. So we point out, what's the thing that doesn't fit? I love on Sesame Street when they would do the thing about one of these things doesn't belong. I promise I'd never sing on the show. So, but in any case, to point up and show them that there are things that are different that are happening. And then as the children get a little bit older and we're building those executive function and cognition skills, we have them practice going someplace and saying, who's following the rules, who's not following the rules, so that eventually they can start to monitor, and we turn it back towards them. Are you monitoring the rules? Are you doing this thing? So that they can see, are you doing what everybody else is doing? But it's a multi-step process, and before we can get to the point where a child says, wait a second, everybody else is doing this and I'm not. That thing that Alex Plank was talking about earlier about noticing, I don't have friends, and these people have friends. What are they doing? Oh, it's those social skills, putting it together. It comes with time, and I shared that my son, not quite getting, I need to work on this so that I'm good at this. He does in some respects, but they tend to be the things that he got immediately reinforced for. I've mentioned before that names were always a really hard thing for him, and he noticed somebody once in a store reading the person's name tag and talking to them and calling them by their name, and the reaction that they got. And he got that. And always now, if I stop and I say to somebody, hey, where would I need to go to find the gray socks? And they'll say, oh, you need to go to aisle 8, and that's where you'll find the gray socks. And I say, thank you. And as we're walking away, he'll say, thank you, Dwayne. And the person lights up and says, well, thank you, little man. And so he has learned that if you know somebody's name and say their name, and that he can cheat and read it on their name tag, right? That you get a big reaction and that people are extra nice to you. People gave him stuff at Disneyland. There was one woman in particular that he said, well, Betsy, thank you very much. And she said, aren't you the sweetest thing? I have a gift for you, because apparently they have these special things at Disneyland that they can give when kids do something remarkable or unique. I did not know that, but really reinforced it for him. So now he just does it and he loves it. So all things that we can be doing to help our kids noticing. Somebody said when answering the question, does your child notice when they're doing something different than everyone around them? One person said he did when he started school and it caused him lots of stress. For example, he could only cut lines with scissors while others could do shapes. And he got upset about falling in the playground more than the others. This is that other side of the coin that when they do realize, we have to make sure that we shore up their self-esteem and help them to not feel, it's that thing of different but equal, right? The Temple Grandin says. So important that we shore that up, that it's okay to be different and that they're going to be just fine. It would be remiss of us to leave that part out. Really important part of it. We're out of time. We are going to be here tomorrow for a very special show. We encourage you to write in your questions for Dr. Doreen starting now. And Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson and I have some very exciting things tomorrow. It will be Halloween at Autism Live tomorrow because we aren't doing a show on Halloween Day. So tomorrow is Halloween here, so you'll have to tune in to see how Nancy and I dress up. It will be worth it, I promise you. And we are also having very special guest, Carrie Magro is here with us tomorrow. He is an inspirational young man on the autism spectrum who was nonverbal at one point and is now an international speaker. And he is now heading up the Autism Project, and he's got a new book out. So that will be tomorrow. Very exciting show tomorrow. No show on Thursday, but we're back on Friday, November 1st. So make sure that you're writing in those questions for Ask Dr. Doreen. Don't forget about the webinar today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's in just an hour. Evelyn Gould, Enhancing Behavioral Parent Training with Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. That is at 1 o'clock. You can just stay here and it will be on in an hour and you can ask questions on the live feature. We're going to be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Ask Dr. Doreen. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.